Good morning and welcome to NASA headquarters in Washington. I'm Public Affairs Officer Trent Parado, and we're here to discuss the successful completion of NASA's Commercial Orbital Transportation Services, or COTS, initiative. Through COTS, two U.S. companies, NASA partners SpaceX and Orbital Sciences, developed new spacecraft and rockets capable of resupplying the International Space Station with cargo launch right here on U.S. soil. You can find out more about NASA and commercial space at www.nasa.gov/commercial. We have a distinguished panel of guests joining us today to discuss the successful completion of the COTS initiative and what it means for future human spaceflight. Let me introduce them now. To my left is Alan Lindenmoyer, manager of NASA's Commercial Crew and Cargo Program. And we have Gwynne Shotwell, president, SpaceX. Next is Frank Culbertson, executive vice president and general manager of Orbital Sciences Advanced Programs Group. Frank Slazer, vice president of space systems, the Aerospace Industries Association. And Phil McAlister, NASA's director of commercial spaceflight development. But before we turn the discussion over to our panel, I'd just like to introduce NASA Administrator Charles Bolden for a few introductory remarks. Charlie.
Thank you, Trent, and thanks to all of you for coming, tuning in, tweeting, doing whatever you're doing to take part in this great event today. I want to welcome all of you to this milestone moment in NASA's commitment to transition the transportation of both cargo and crew to the International Space Station and other future low Earth orbit destinations to our commercial industry partners. A little more than 2 years ago, after the end of the Space Shuttle program, two American companies, SpaceX of Hawthorne, California, and Orbital Sciences Corporation of Dulles, Virginia, have restored American capability to deliver and return experiments and supplies to the International Space Station, replacing our reliance on foreign providers. Their successes mark the conclusion of NASA's Commercial Orbital Transportation Services, or COTS program, and clear the way for both companies to begin providing regular transportation services to the ISS. SpaceX completed its COTS development with a demonstration mission to the space station last year. Since then, the company has flown the first 2 of 12 contracted cargo resupply flights to the space station. Orbital Sciences ended its development phase in October of this year with a successful demonstration mission to the space station. Orbital is poised to launch the first of its 8 cargo resupply missions to the station in December. These achievements are the result of strong bipartisan leadership by the Obama and Bush administrations, as well as the extraordinary skill and dedication of the men and women of NASA and our partners in the private sector. Building on this public-private partnership model, President Obama has invested in an even more ambitious plan to have American companies transport our astronauts to the ISS on spacecraft launched from American soil, ending the outsourcing of this work overseas. It's now critically important to get full funding from Congress to keep us on track to begin these launches in 2017. 3 companies, SpaceX, Boeing, and Sierra Nevada, are already hard at work developing the next generation spacecraft and rockets capable of transporting humans to and from low Earth orbit from American soil. Next week, we will issue a final request for proposals for contracts designed to ensure commercial companies meet NASA's safety requirements for transporting NASA crews to and from the International Space Station. So in many ways, the completion of COTS is simply a passing of the torch of innovation to our partners in the Commercial Crew Program. Today, it's absolutely clear. America's best days in space exploration are ahead of us, thanks to the grit and determination of those in government and the private sector who dare to dream big dreams and have the skills to turn them into reality. In a moment, you'll hear details about our COTS program and its successes from the key architects of that program. At this time, I want to recognize something we have become accustomed to in this arena. I want to recognize all of them for bringing us to this historic turning point by presenting each of them with a NASA Group Achievement Award. First, I'm going to present to Alan Lindenmoyer, manager of NASA's Commercial Crew and Cargo Program. The citation for Alan will read, "For outstanding contributions and innovative accomplishments in the area of human space exploration by facilitating the development of a new generation of American rockets and spacecraft, paving the way for 21st century commercial spaceflight." Alan? And so I only have to read the citation once. I'm gonna tell you about the next two people, and then we'll get them up one at a time, but then together. They do that thing every once in a while. To Gwynne Shotwell, President of SpaceX, and Frank Culbertson, Executive Vice President and General Manager, Orbital Sciences Advanced Programs Group. Their citations read, "For outstanding contributions and innovative accomplishments in the area of human space exploration by developing a new generation of American rockets and spacecraft, paving the way for 21st century commercial spaceflight." Congratulations, Gwynne, and to Frank. And Gwynne, if I can get you to come up first, and then. Frank. I know I can get you to behave. Sometimes Frank makes me for South Carolina and sometimes hard. Alan, would you come on up here and join us, and we'll get the three of you. Gwynne right there. Alan, let me give you your. How's this? Oops, I need to move that one. Perfect. Congratulations to all of you once again, and this is an exciting day. As I said, it's kind of quirky maybe, but we just finished taking the Olympic torch up to station last week and getting it back down, so in a way this is passing another torch. We're really excited about our commercial crew program. I think the successful completion of the COTS program and moving into business signals that we've got a pretty good idea about how to do this thing, and I'm very confident we'll get it done. So congratulations to all of you again. I'm going to turn it back over to Trent and get off the stage here. Thank you.
Okay, so let's hear from our award-winning panelists then. And we'll begin with Alan Lindenmoyer.
Thank you, Trent, and thank you, Charlie, so much. What a great surprise, and what an honor and a pleasure to be here today to talk about the success of COTS with my great friends from SpaceX and Orbital. I'd say we made the right choice. It worked. SpaceX, COTS. The origin of COTS was from a very healthy competition. We had a large group of companies that competed to become our partners, but we had high confidence in these two companies that they were going to deliver, and they certainly did not let us down. I personally had confidence that these companies were going to produce new space transportation systems with or without NASA's help. But I think we've seen here with that contribution of financial support from NASA and the technical resources we had available really accelerated the work that you had planned to do. And it certainly was great to see us succeed. COTS was a challenge to private industry. It certainly was a new way of doing business for us, but it was an experiment to show that with proper strategic investment to help overcome the barriers to entry that are so difficult in this business, along with partnering with access to NASA's vast history of lessons learned and our experience we've learned over the years, and availability of our technical support when needed. You couple those two things together, put it with two very strong companies, could it lead to the development of new state-of-the-art systems? Well, why don't we take a look at the amazing machines that these companies have created?
Three, two, one.
This is the Falcon 9 on the COTS first demonstration launch. This was out of the Cape in December of 2010. And then on the second flight in May of 2012, this flight was just a two-orbit demonstration. And then on the second flight in May, the Dragon successfully did a flyby of the station, rendezvoused with the station, and then had a perfectly successful berthing to the station. On the mission, they did carry some demonstration cargo to prove out all of their internal systems. The Dragon stayed on orbit for about a week and then was unberthed. Boy, things go pretty fast when you're looking at it for the second time. A couple revs later, the Dragon had a great successful splashdown in the South Pacific, was immediately recovered, brought back, and proved that it was a good, reliable system of getting our science home from the space station. And then this last April was the first flight of the Antares new rocket system.
To the International Space Station.
And then just a few months later in September, it made its flight to the space station, September 23rd, out of a brand new launch pad at Wallops Island, Virginia. The Cygnus took its time getting to the space station and demonstrated its ability to loiter in orbit for about a week, got its system straightened out, and was ready to go. Did a flawless approach to the station, was captured, and then had a beautiful attachment to the station. It also carried a complement of demonstration cargo, about 1,500 pounds of cargo was brought up. And then Karen and Luca and the other crew on board stuffed it full of trash and other items that needed to be disposed. It has a lot of room in the Cygnus. They loaded that up with about 2,600 pounds of equipment and stuff to be disposed. It was released on the 22nd of October, and then the next day.
To the International Space Station, release confirmed at 6:31 a.m. Central Time. Once again, the two vehicles were high above the Atlantic Ocean.
Station Houston, Cygnus has exited the 200-meter keep-out sphere.
Had a safe and uneventful re-entry on the 23rd of October. These are incredible machines. They're highly complex, state-of-the-art spacecraft, and certainly worked beautifully well on the demonstration, which set up now, paved the way for cargo services for several years to come. To keep the space station going with all the incredible research it's doing. COTS needs, it's not for everything. COTS was a new way in business. It was a new way of doing business, and it certainly needed the right ingredients to be successful. A good, strong value proposition from the companies proposing. We weren't looking to expand new technology. This was taking technology that was known, repackaging in a more cost-effective and innovative way. It needs multiple companies to have a good, healthy competition. Needs good, strong financing, because NASA did not pay the full cost. There was a very significant amount of investment from these companies. And you have to have multiple markets. Government can't be the only customer. These systems are available to others in the industry and expanding the U.S. Commercial industry. This is American ingenuity at its best, resulting in safe, reliable, and cost-effective space transportation, providing an incredibly important job of resupplying the space station, taking over the job of the shuttle was intended to do. It's going to keep the space station going for many, many years to come. All the great research going on, to help us explore the deep space, and it allows NASA to focus on the more current and difficult challenges of building the new vehicles and spacecraft we need to explore beyond low Earth orbit and make our way out to the asteroids and eventually to Mars. So congratulations, well done. Thank you for making NASA a very proud partner.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Alan. Let's turn it over to SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, still this morning. We've been thankful to NASA throughout the program for their support and their help. But what I really wanted to highlight here this morning was to thank NASA for the vision that they had in creating this program. It was a revolutionary program and provided a great opportunity for the commercial space sector to do what they do best and to flourish and result in really enormous capability now in the United States. So we're incredibly proud of what we've accomplished over these years under the COTS program, and we're honored to have been selected and to help restore the cargo capability to the International Space Station domestically. This program was an enormous success, not only for NASA and for SpaceX and Orbital as well, but also for the American taxpayer. I think the model that COTS followed is one that should be leveraged as we continue to go forward, especially during these difficult budget environments. As Alan says, it's probably not the right model for every program, but certainly I think we should think very hard about following this model for additional developments. So this was a significant departure, as we talked about both initially here today as well as this morning. We did a lessons learned roundtable. The focus on firm fixed price, milestone-based contracting or agreements is incredibly important. The leveraging of investment by NASA's commercial partners here, in this case us and Orbital. So NASA provided $396 million worth of financial support to SpaceX out of an overall program that was about $850 million. So we spent over $450 million of our own resources to develop the Falcon 9 and the Dragon capability. So Falcon 9 is an extraordinary launch vehicle, competitive in the ELV class. We're winning missions from overseas and bringing those critical jobs back to the United States, which is also really, COTS should really take credit for that. In addition, we have a beautiful Dragon capsule capable of taking about 3 metric tons of pressurized and unpressurized cargo up and bringing back about 2.5 metric tons of precious science and cargo as well. So we're enormously proud of the partnership and working with NASA. This program really demonstrated how you can leverage the best of both sectors. You can leverage the resources and the tremendous knowledge that NASA and the U.S. government had, along with the ingenuity, the fast-paced environment, rapid prototyping, and really the drive to get things done of the private sector. So we've accomplished 3 missions to the International Space Station. We're looking forward to 10 more as we go. We've just recently plugged in the date for the next CRS mission, CRS-3. We'll fly in February of next year, also from the Cape. This will be the first CRS mission on the upgraded Falcon 9 launch vehicle. So I wanted to thank NASA again for the opportunity to participate in this extraordinary program. We are proud and we're honored to have been a part of it. Thanks.
Thanks, Gwynne. And we'll turn it over to Orbital Sciences' Frank Culbertson. Frank.
Thank you very much, Trent, and good morning to everybody. Gwynne said it very well. The key aspects of this program were the partnership aspect and the investment that both the companies and NASA, as well as in our case the state of Virginia, had to put into this and to take a chance on this. It helped a lot that before we got too far along in the program, NASA did put out a competition for contracts that gave us the incentive to really get this right, because there was the potential for services contract in the future. And Orbital had actually Orbital was founded on the premise of commercial access to space, and our first rocket to do that was the Pegasus, and we've been doing that for almost 30 years. And so this was a great step in what we think is the right direction to commercialize a lot of aspects of what we do in space. And as was said, this model can be used for a lot of other projects, programs, and not just in the space program, but it certainly is well suited for supporting the International Space Station, and we think for exploration. Orbital had begun investing in the Antares rocket before the beginning of the COTS program as a medium-class lift vehicle for replacing the Delta II. And so it was a nice move for NASA to come along with COTS, so we'd have our first customer for it. And of course, that rocket has worked out very well and performed flawlessly on both of our first two flights. We've got a great team at Orbital who has learned a lot from NASA and our other partners, but also has put a lot of innovation into what we're doing and learned to be both efficient and cost-effective while still being safe and reliable to support human spaceflight, which is a different world than just what we've been doing in the past, supporting communications satellites, science satellites, and the DoD. So it's a good direction to be moving. As you know, I firmly believe that human spaceflight is the foundation of continuing all of our space programs and continuing the future of NASA. So we're very honored to be a part of supporting the ISS and looking forward to it continuing for a long time and other programs that come along. The requirements of this program were very serious for us that we had to establish, but the best thing was NASA let us establish our own requirements, except when we were close to the station. So we had to be responsible for our own success, both on the launch vehicle and the spacecraft, and that taught us a lot. We also had to learn a lot of flexibility, as did NASA in this case, in some cases, and I think that's a good thing for industry to work with the government on how to be more flexible in arriving at solutions. The schedule is important here for both companies and for NASA, because the space station does rely on this logistics train, not just on us, but we're going to be a larger and larger part of it going forward. And so being able to establish a cost-effective supply chain or production plan is also important to both of us. I want to thank our teammates. The Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, supported by Virginia Department of Transportation, has been invaluable in this, in developing the launch pad and operating it for us. NASA as a teammate, not just in the COTS program, but also ISS, at Wallops, JSC, KSC, Marshall. Many centers have contributed to the success of this with expertise, advice, and actually people occasionally to come in and look at what we're doing. Our teammates, ATK, Aerojet, Yuzhnoye, and Thales Alenia also have contributed greatly to the success of this by providing us with great hardware that has worked well. As many of you know, we named our first Cygnus spacecraft to go to the station, the G. David Low, in honor of a former astronaut, classmate of mine, and a former Orbital employee who actually was involved in the early days of COTS from the very beginning, and who we lost a few years ago, unfortunately. But we were very proud to name that one the G. David Low. Our next one, in order to continue the tradition, will be named after C. Gordon Fullerton. Gordo, as most of us know him, was a two-time shuttle pilot, a long-time test pilot and research pilot at Dryden. But his connection with Orbital was that he was the pilot of the B-52 that dropped our Pegasus several times out there as we were developing that program, and worked closely with us in helping make that program a success. And when we transitioned into the L-1011, Gordo was pretty happy about that, because then he could fly the F-18 and not the Heavy in order to chase our launches. So it's going to be an honor for us to name the December 15th flight of Cygnus after C. Gordon Fullerton and continue that tradition. Mid-December is when our next one is scheduled. The one after that should be in April or May, and we're continuing with the production line and looking forward to many, many more flights of supporting station, we hope, well beyond 2020. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank. We'll turn over the discussion to Frank Slazer of the Aerospace Industries Association. Frank.
Thank you. Some of you may wonder why I'm up here on this panel, since I'm not a COTS contractor or representing NASA. But in fact, the organization I work for represents about 90% of the U.S. industry sales by dollar value. and employs over 3.5 million people. And I can just here to really attest to the fact that this has been not only a benefit for NASA and for the COTS companies, but also for the space industrial base, an industrial base that's increasingly under pressure as federal budget cutbacks and shrinkages have caused difficulties for the industry. COTS has really also shown not just that these companies can reach the space station, but also that leadership in space by our nation isn't just something that happened in the past we can look back fondly on, but our road to the future and something we're going to continue to excel in. COTS also showed the value of giving industry a greater role in accomplishing an objective. Again, you look at the cost that was invested in COTS, a little more than $800 million. That's about what one shuttle flight used to cost. And now we have 2 launch systems, as well as 2 cargo capabilities to bring materials up to the station and some materials back. In addition to independent access, because these developments happened, the United States is starting to see something that hasn't happened since the 1990s. U.S. satellite sales are being made and launches are being planned on COTS vehicles. So we're bringing back from the future or to the future something we once did, which was having a healthy launch industry and reestablishing our space transportation role. The investment is also helping to facilitate NASA continuing to invest in the Orion multi-purpose crew exploration vehicle, as well as the Space Launch System. This is an important thing because right now NASA's budget's under a lot of threat between sequestration as well as the overall decline in the federal spending right now. So for NASA to get this very cost-effective way to sustain ISS to at least 2020 and hopefully beyond is very, very important. I'd also note that the COTS is also helping to create more than just providing access to the ISS for NASA purposes. It's enabling new industries and new users in academia and other locations in our society to utilize the ISS National Lab, the International Space Station National Lab. And this is really going to be important because space station is a facility that's got great capabilities. Now we need to utilize them, and that's starting to happen, and COTS is a big part of that. In fact, as an example, in just 3 years of operations, one new company, NanoRacks LLC, has sent over 100 payloads to the International Space Station on behalf of customers ranging from 39 school districts to advanced pharmaceutical companies. U.S. industry has invested and is investing capital and innovative ideas to support this new future, and the government agencies and the Congress that have created this program have also taken key steps to foster these new initiatives. Stability, however, is important going forward in the future. These companies have invested their capital on behalf of a market that they need to have some assurance is going to be there in order to pay back their investors as well as to enable future capabilities to be developed in a similar way. COTS and the Commercial Cargo Program have also successfully reestablished U.S. domestic cargo access to the station, and AIA believes that COTS has pointed the way for NASA's Commercial Crew Program as the most expedient way to now reestablish independent U.S. crew access to the space station. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Frank. So before we turn over the discussion to Phil McAlister for closing remarks, I just want to show a short video that highlights some of the science we've been able to conduct aboard the International Space Station. Some of the investigations we're really excited to be able to send up, and these, of course, capabilities that have been enabled by our COTS partners and current commercial resupply services providers. If we could cue that up and show it.
The International Space Station is a convergence of science, technology, and human innovation, an orbiting science lab where astronauts live, work, and prepare for even bolder human exploration missions. With the retirement of the shuttle program, NASA challenged American industry to provide safe, reliable, and affordable transportation to the space station in order to maintain U.S. leadership in space exploration and scientific discovery. NASA's commercial partners, SpaceX and Orbital Sciences, met that challenge, ending our temporary reliance on others to resupply the station. These American companies are delivering critical supplies and science experiments to the International Space Station that expand our understanding of the universe and clear the path for deeper human exploration into the solar system. One recently returned investigation aboard a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft was the coarsening in solid liquid mixtures experiment. an important trial that will help American engineers back on Earth develop even more durable and stronger materials for automobile, aircraft, and spacecraft parts. The ability to deliver and return frozen space station cargo, including biological samples, is essential for scientists hoping to better understand how the human body can thrive in long-term spaceflight. These and other important results gained in space also have direct benefits here on Earth. One experiment on human immune cells, scheduled to fly next year, requires astronauts to access samples very quickly after the cargo arrives to the space station. Spaceflight capabilities developed through the COTS program make this experiment possible. With hundreds of ongoing experiments, the International Space Station will be a platform of discovery for years to come. The amazing breakthroughs in scientific research will be made possible and carried aloft to the orbiting laboratory by NASA's American partners, SpaceX and Orbital Sciences. But the success of NASA's commercial cargo program is just beginning. Soon, private American companies will be transporting our astronauts to the station on spacecraft launched from U.S. soil. Thanks to American ingenuity and NASA's never say never attitude, the future of space exploration is indeed bright.
And with that, let's hear about what's next to come for American commercial spaceflight with NASA's Director of Commercial Spaceflight Development, Phil McAlister.
Thanks, Trent. For my remarks, I'm going to go a little off type and talk about the emotions that I've been feeling as COTS have been coming to a close. You know, as engineers, we like to talk about specific impulse and beta angles, communications frequencies, but I've been really struck by sort of the feelings that and the emotional aspects of what we have accomplished over these 5 or 6 years. First and foremost, obviously, is a very strong sense of pride and accomplishment. Obviously, the hardware that you've seen today, very impressive. The accomplishments of the program and the fact that we've been able to go all the way through the end, that was one of the really true accomplishments. As aerospace professionals, we've probably all been part of a program where you started off, you start to get invested in it, and then for some reason it gets canceled, usually because of cost situations. You kind of feel like you've been left at the altar, but it has been great to see this program go all the way through. I'm convinced that one of the keys was the cost effectiveness of this program, and that enabled it to get all the way through to the end. Also, I'm very proud of NASA, I have to say. I'm obviously proud of our partners and what they were able to accomplish. But we haven't always been a good partner in the past, and I think through the COTS efforts that we've shown that NASA can be a good partner. We were able to step back and let our partners take the lead on the development of these systems, and also being able to adapt to 2 very different companies. I wasn't quite sure how that would go. The companies have very different business approaches, they have different cultures, and NASA was able to adapt to those differences and enable them to thrive, and also the overall program to thrive as well. So I've had a very strong feeling of accomplishment and pride because of that. Also, I have to say, it's tinged with a lot of sadness to see it finally come to a close. It's been a wild ride. There have been a lot of challenges that have been overcome over the years. And many of us that have worked together now for over 6 years, we've come to know each other, respect each other, and rely on each other, which was one of the keys to the partnership. So it's kind of sad to see this come to an end, but I have to say that the sadness is very much tempered by hope and optimism, which is what I'm feeling most when I look forward. The future that has been enabled by the COTS program. We can now get the most out of the International Space Station. We are no longer going to be constrained by our upmass capability, and the productivity of that national lab can finally come to full fruition. So I'm really excited about that. And even more so, we now have a template for how to do a non-traditional program using public-private partnerships. Those have been very difficult, and now, like Alan said, every program's different. It's not the right model for everything, but we certainly have a successful template that future programs and future program managers can go to and say, how did they do that? How did that work? And maybe apply that to future endeavors. I think with the budget challenges that we are all facing, partnerships are going to be critical. for all of our future space endeavors. We're going to have to do more of that. And seeing the success of COTS, I think, has given us the confidence to be able to do more of those partnerships. Certainly, it was critical for enabling commercial crew. The success that COTS had exhibited, even early on, gave policymakers and NASA the confidence to be able to say, yes, I think we can do this with commercial crew. And if you look at commercial crew, most of the critical key aspects of COTS have been adapted by crew. We're using pay-for-performance milestones. We're using Space Act agreements for the initial rounds of development. We're having skin in the game, competition, all those features that Alan mentioned that were key to the success of COTS. We are adapting and using in commercial crew and hope to be using that in the future. So I think that's the final feeling that I have, is the hope and optimism that I see for the future and our exploration efforts. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Let's go ahead and start a question and answer session. We'll start here in the room, and then we'll go to the phone line. And do we have any questions here? Dan.
Hi, everybody. Yeah. Dan Leone with Space News. I have one backward-looking question, which I think that other entrepreneurial space people who are watching may be interested to know the answer to, and one very forward-looking one for Alan. Much has been made about NASA's role as a critical anchor customer. And Alan, you said you were convinced these companies were going to go ahead and build these vehicles no matter what you guys did. And I'm curious, the concepts definitely predate the COTS program, but I wonder if NASA had not showed up, do you, SpaceX and Orbital, think that at this point you would have had multiple successful demonstration flights of the vehicles you were developing, or not?
Well, that's a little bit of a tough question, because once we got these contracts, we focused on them. But I do think that having NASA as our initial partner on COTS, and then having them as our first customer, I won't speak for Gwynne, but in our case, I think was essential, because there were a lot of new things we had to learn about getting to the space station and accomplishing a mission that included a rendezvous and grapple with a human-occupied vehicle. Now, we could have developed Antares and flown it for other purposes, for other customers. I think there is a market for that. But I do think that our ability to succeed was enhanced by the partnership with NASA. The goals that were set by the program helped us. And if I could just add, I'd like to also thank NASA and Charlie for that award today. Our team is going to be very proud of that. And they did the work, and I'll be happy to deliver it back to them. And I'm sure Gwynne feels the same way. Thank you.
So we were working on an EELV class launch vehicle, and we also were working on a capsule prior to the COTS program. I don't think we would have done as much as we did in the time frame that we did without NASA support. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I can say with confidence that we would not have done what we've done in this time frame. So NASA support was essential to our developing this system and doing so in the time frame.
We just learned that COTS has been successful, but perhaps not for every other program. But for example, what programs might it be appropriate for in the realm of human exploration going forward? Are there any serious inklings within NASA? Have they already reassigned you somewhere to make this work for something else? Can you tell us how it might come to pass, as Phil said, that another program manager picks this approach up?
Right. Well, I think it's very important that NASA pave the way. NASA breaks through the challenges of the new technologies that are required to explore outside of Earth's boundaries into low Earth orbit, and then going deeper and deeper into space to the moon and beyond. So NASA is a governmental effort to tackle those new technologies, then turn it over to industry, who is set up to operate these systems in a more cost-effective manner. That's just a natural fit. So I think that's a very important part of the model for NASA and the government to blaze the trail and then turn it over for operational of an existing technology. So I think that's really key. We shouldn't expect private companies to have just breakthrough technologies. That's not. I don't think that's key ingredient. A key ingredient of the model is to not have that requirement. Which, and if you look at history, there are cases that have failed because the technology challenge, which is too great. In July, we sent out a synopsis requesting information for ideas from industry on how the model could be extended and what are on the minds of our industry partners today for helping NASA complete our exploration goals. And there was a great deal of great responses. Systems to go back and explore the moon, communication systems, propellant systems, launch systems. There's all kinds of potential out there where the model can be used, and I think it can be used in a complementary manner. NASA develops the high technology systems, and then the systems that are less complex can be turned over to industry. So I think that's the way to look forward, is just to keep looking for those opportunities where we can work together to create and achieve our goals.
Let me jump to the phone line here, and we'll start with Tarek Malik with Space.com. Go ahead, Tarek.
Thank you. I have a question. I think about looking ahead for Gwynne and for Frank. Gwynne, I'm wondering what SpaceX learned, from the COTS program that you've been able to apply to CRS, maybe like one or two kind of vital lessons in developing the Dragon spacecraft. And for Frank, I'm wondering how the process has informed what your plans are for Cygnus and Antares on a non-NASA commercial basis. Thanks.
Okay, good question. Hard to answer. I think there were a couple of lessons that we learned during the COTS development program. I don't know whether they'd be specifically applicable to CRS, but certainly to other programs going forward. SpaceX is an organization that loves to test, and we test enormously at the component level. Certainly on the vehicles, we go to the subsystem all the way up to the system level. For Dragon, kind of given where we were with the funding that was available both at SpaceX and from NASA, we had, with purpose, cut out a lot of system tests for Dragon, all-up system tests for Dragon, and we're relying more heavily on the component-level tests, very much like the Iridium model, actually. And we found when we did decide to pull back some of those big system tests, we did find that we learned a lot. So we'll continue to do those big system tests on our launcher systems going forward. That's always been the plan, and certainly we'll continue to drive large system testing on the capsule side as well. I only gave you one lesson learned. I cheated there. Sorry, Tarek.
You want more?
No, you go.
Another valuable lesson learned in COTS that carries over into CRS is the relationship between the company and our other partners, including NASA and the state of Virginia. We've had to work through a lot of issues, and sometimes very intense issues related to cost, schedule, and technical performance that have paved the way for improving the way we're going to operate in the future. Even the fact that we had to abandon our approach on the first attempt of the demo mission and come back around and try it again allowed us to basically do a major simulation in space of the management team, the technical teams, and the engineering teams, making sure that we all agreed on how we were solving this problem, what we were going to do next, and what the procedures were in a very efficient way. And I think that will allow us to deal with any other problems that might come up in the future. As far as how we're going to use Cygnus in the future and Antares, we are negotiating with several companies for carrying other payloads into space. But we already have commitments from other organizations to add payloads, secondary payloads to the Cygnus. And a couple of flights down the road, we will be doing conducting an experiment for Glenn Research Center to evaluate fire propagation and how to extinguish fires in space after we undock from the station. That's the plan. And then we also have some other secondary payloads that could be installed on either the outside or the inside and conducted following the cargo delivery. So we think there's lots of opportunity for that, as well as the exploration, asteroid retrieval, and lunar missions develop in the future. They're going to need cargo. They're going to need modules. they're going to need support from companies like ours to be able to conduct those missions in a cost-effective way.
Thank you.
Okay, let me take two more from the phone. If there are any further questions here in the audience, just shoot a hand up as we take these two, and I'll come back to you. But let's go with Alan Boyle, MSNBC. Go ahead, Alan.
Thank you. I guess this might be for Alan or whoever else wants to respond to this idea of going forward. Administrator Bolden talked about how Congress really needed to support the crew development program at the requested level in order to make 2017. Why, if COTS was such a success, is it such a hard sell to get the sort of money that NASA is looking for? And what would be the impact if the funding level was not at what the administration wants? How much would that affect the development programs for specifically SpaceX?
Might be Phil's. So I can't speak for Congress. Obviously, it's a very difficult budget environment for all discretionary programs, and we're going to see that continue in the future, which is why programs like COTS become so critical for in the portfolio of the agency. Going forward, we've said this very many times. Less money means we go slower than we would like to go. It's a pretty straightforward equation. We kind of think we know how much money it's going to take, and if it's less money over a longer period of time, it's going to take us a little bit longer. But we're committed to getting the program done as soon as possible and bring that capability back to the United States. So we are going to continue pushing. Our industry partners are hitting their milestones in a very good fashion. But all of our programs here at NASA are under some degree of stress. So it's not unique to the Commercial Crew Program.
Anything further, Alan?
And did Gwynne have any thoughts about what the future development might be for the crew-capable Falcon with or without more money from NASA?
Well, we were founded to, and we've architected all our systems to carry crew. We certainly would like to move forward with the crew development in partnership with NASA. I think it's in our genetics to do it regardless. It will take substantially longer, and it probably won't meet the requirements that NASA has to be able to leverage the system. Alan, I apologize, I don't want to hazard a guess as to how long it would take for us to do it. I really would like to just try to continue to cheerlead for an overall higher level budget for NASA. NASA does an extraordinary amount of work for $16 or $17 billion a year. And I just want to give you a little tidbit of information. Americans spend $100 billion a year on beer.
I'll drink to that.
Thanks, Alan. All right, let's move on to Irene Klotz, Discovery.
Hi, thanks very much. I have three questions. The first for Phil, kind of following up what you were just saying about commercial crew. Given what you've learned from the COTS program, would you say that it's more important to go slower if the funding's not available, but keep at least two companies in the game, or down select to one company in the next round of competition?
So getting the systems as soon as possible and also having competition are both goals that NASA would like to maintain through this program. I can't say one's more important than the other. We're going to have to see the proposals that come in for this next round. As Charlie mentioned, next week we're going to be releasing our final RFP for the next round of proposals or for the next round of commercial crew activity, which is expected to start next summer. So those proposals will really dictate how fast we go and how many we have. We're always going to have budget challenges, so we kind of need to decide what kind of program we want. We want one that's going to be successful and deliver a capability as soon as possible, and we believe the best way to do that is through competition. So we would like to maintain that. Obviously, we're going to have some hard decisions with the budget, and we're just going to have to see how that plays out and see what the proposals say, see where the competition sort of plays out, and what's in the best interest for NASA in that selection.
Thanks. The next two, one for Frank and one for Gwynne. Frank, I know Orbital's pretty focused in with the first supply mission, but could you give us any updates on any non-NASA business or prospects that might have come up since the demonstration flight, I guess it was last month or the month before? I'm losing track of time. Thanks.
Sorry, Irene, I can't really talk about competitive issues yet. We're still in negotiations and discussions. But it is fascinating, isn't it?
Okay, and Gwynne, kind of a related question for you is the next launch of Falcon 9, of course, is just coming up, I guess, another week or so. Is that still on track for the 22nd? I had heard a report that it could be a couple days later. And if there's anything, I understand the rocket will be going for the first time to a new altitude, and just a little bit about what you're hoping to achieve with that SES flight. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Irene. Yes, so the next flight of the Falcon 9 will deliver the SES-8 satellite to a geosynchronous transfer orbit. That flight, we did push it a couple of days. We're now, well, I'm not sure we have confirmation of range date, but I know it was available the 25th of this month. So it's, I think that's a week from Monday. We wanted a little bit more time to make sure the launch site was ready for us. I wanted to give the crew a little bit of rest. They've been working really, really hard to get this flight off. So November 25th is the planned for date right now for SES-8.
Any further questions? Okay, I think that's going to be a wrap then. Let me just flag that on NASA.gov you can find a press release that drills down with a little bit more information about the COTS program and what the success means and what comes next. Also flag that the NASA administrator has a blog out today about the successful wrap-up of COTS, and you can find that on NASA.gov as well. We'll have the 2 videos that we showed during the event up and a fact sheet on a bit of NASA's commercial space accomplishments to date there. So go to NASA.gov, and just for more generally on NASA and commercial space flight development, you can go to NASA.gov/commercial. So let me just congratulate and thank all of our panelists for their time here today, and thank you all for your time and for joining, and that'll do it.